Hey guys, Fox Protocol Mining. Today I'm going to do a pretty simple video, just an overlay of how to use Rave OS, how to get it from start to finish, and some hints from somebody who's used it before. So basically, starting out, you're going to want to go to raveos.com. This will bring you to their homepage, which gives you just kind of a brief overview of everything, including a new thing for some of us Rave users that any 2 miners pools that you use are now completely free to use. Otherwise, you will notice that by using Rave OS, there is a fee of $2 a month for every active rig that you have. Doesn't matter how many GPUs are on a rig or how many of you running an ASIC. Every individual worker that you bring on is going to be $2 a month. Now there's plenty of tabs up here that include different features, how they do their pricing, and they actually do now have an install tab that basically will walk you through everything I'm about to tell you in case you ever want something more in depth or maybe I missed something. So, but yeah, they've taken some big steps on helping people walk through this process. But some people like a more visual aid, so that's what I'm here for. So yeah, you'll want to go to your Rave OS by miners for miners, and you're going to click this login feature. Once you are here, you're going to want to register. When you register, it's going to ask you for a login, your email address, and your passwords that you want to use. It does have some password requirements, but they're pretty simple. And once you do this step, you will have to verify your email address before you can use the software. But once you're past that, you'll return back to this screen and log in. You can also, for those people who like the extra security, there is 2-factor identification if you want to make sure that this is secure. Some people choose not to use it, but for the sake of this video, I'm just throwing that out there. And then when you log in, you will come to this screen. This is called the cluster screen. So say you are mining separate coins, you can actually divvy up your rigs in different clusters. So you can have like your default, and then you can add like Ethereum, and you can add, we'll use Beam, I like Beam. And then as you add workers, you can actually put them in these clusters. So you can actually keep track of how many rigs you have, how many GPUs, what your hash power is. It does keep track of your electric use, but I find that it's not 100% accurate. AMD cards especially don't report accurate wattage. So when in doubt, always check your wattage at the wall to make sure that you're profitable and that you are not pulling more electric than you think you are. But before we can get you mining, you'll come to this cluster screen. You're going to want to go down to workers. Once you come to workers, you're going to want to add a worker. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it FoxDen. You can put a description, like, if you want to keep track of where this rig is or give it a unique identifier or something like that. Every rig needs a password. I just going to put 0000 for this, and then however many cards are on it. Now, this doesn't matter. Like if you have 8 cards and you leave it at 1, you can do that. This just helps you keep track of, like, let's say you have 8 cards on this rig, so you go up to 8 cards. And then you turn it on and only 7 register. What'll happen is you'll actually get a big red exclamation mark letting you know that one of your cards is not registering. And like if during the course of a day your rig crashes and comes back online, then this will let you know that, hey, some of your cards are no longer registering and you need to troubleshoot that. So it's a kind of a nice feature, but just make sure that you, like I said, if you set it lower, you have 3, it just won't tell you. So it's not a big deal. Once you've successfully created your worker, it's going to come here. There's separate tabs right now for AMD and NVIDIA. So that way if you're running AMD cards and NVIDIA cards on the same rig, they will be separated so that you can actually see them that way. If you're running all of one type, then you'll only see one type. So if this screen changes when you turn your rig on, that generally just means that you've only got one type of GPU on your rig. For this part though, we're going to go to the System Info tab. This is going to tell you the worker status, but most importantly, it's going to give you this. It's a unique worker identifier. Now, this is how you'll communicate with the system. So at this point, you can either use, some people use SSDs for this, but I keep it simple and I use an 8 GB USB drive. So what you'll want to do right now is you'll want to plug in your 8 GB USD or however large, but it has to be at least 8 gigs. Plug it into any USB port and you'll get your little notification that you've plugged in your worker. Well, sorry, that you've plugged in your USB. And then you will need to download Balana Etcher. This is a Flash program. It's completely safe as long as you're getting it from this address, which I will leave a link to down below. But Balana Etcher is my favorite. There are other Flash programs, but this is the one that I think works best. So you'll just click download and you'll get a little notification over here. I haven't had any issues with my virus software blocking it. But if you do, it is a safe program, as long as you're getting it from this address. So you can bypass that and you won't blow your computer up. And then you will get this tab once you have it installed. It's going to ask you to select a flash file. So to get Rave OS, we need to go to this download tab. It's going to ask you if you want to download the Rave OS image, which of course you're going to hit OK. And once again, you're going to download a zip file. Now the wonderful thing with Balana is that you do not need to unzip that file. You can just leave it exactly as it is, and you'll flash from file. I have a lot of stuff in here, so pardon me on that, but your latest download will be Balana Etcher and your Rave OS if you're just doing this live with me. But you'll select your Rave OS and open, and now it's going to ask you for a target. So if you have your 8 gig USB plugged in, you will check that and hit select, and then you're going to hit flash. Now I've already flashed my USB, so I'm not going to do it again. But what will happen when you do this is it will copy the Rave OS operating system onto your USB. Hella cool. Your command prompt on most users is going to pop up at this point, and it's going to ask you if you want to make changes to this PC, but it's actually just asking you to make changes to the USB drive. So that is safe to do. You can hit yes, and then it will start doing its thing. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm recording and I've already done it. But when it's done, you will be able to come over here and you're going to be able to see Mining OS. Now, depending on how your settings for Balana are, it might automatically eject the USB drive when it's done flashing. If that happens, just plug it back in. Just pop it out of the USB and then pop it right back into the slot. And then it'll pop up again and you'll have your Mining OS in whatever drive, it doesn't matter. Now in this, there's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo that most of you don't care about and probably are going to be looking at it like it's alien language, and that's perfectly fine because frankly it is all alien language. But this config file is the only thing that you need right now. So you're going to go into this configuration file and you'll see token. You're going to double click on that and it's going to pull up a blank notepad. You're going to copy this, reopen that notepad, paste, and you're going to have a little star here. That is to remind you to save. Once you save, that star will go away. If you do not save and you X out of this and you eject your drive and plug it into your rig, nothing will happen because your rig will not have an identifying token to get into the operating system. So No matter how many times you feel the need to save that, save it, save it, save it. Now, another important thing here, and something I'm not going to cover immediately because I'm still not 100% sure how to get it to work successfully. I run all of my rigs on Ethernet connections, so I use a plug-in cable in order to connect to the internet. If you do not, I believe that you need to plug in your network password in here. But I'm not, yeah. Basically, if you are using Wi-Fi, you need to come here because this will walk you through exactly how to do that. But for those of us using Ethernet cables, we do not need to do that. We will just be able to simply plug into our rig and turn it on, and all will be right in the world. Now, once we do that, we are going to move on to part 2. Alright, so for this next step, you're going to need to create a wallet. So with a wallet, you're going to hit the Add Wallet, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to go with Foxden, just because I'm Fox Protocol mining, and that's what I do. Select a coin. Now you will have access to every single coin in Rave OS's system. These are all added by individual users, so you can actually add your own coins too if later on you want to do that. But let's keep it simple for right now. So we're here for Ethereum, and it'll automatically populate that. Next is the pool list. You'll see on my screen, because I'm Rave OS, 2 miners is my free pool, which means that it doesn't cost you a dime to use their software. You'll just connect to 2 miners. Most people, well, I don't want to say most people, but Ethermine is usually one of the bigger ones that people go to. People that use Hive OS will use Hivon. I don't know why you want to connect to that through Rave, but you can. And pretty much every other pool. I know Flex Pool gets a shout out because they're a new start and they're really for the miner, and they've been supporting the miners a lot recently, so I'd like to give them a shout out in my video here. But otherwise, yeah, you got everything in here. Just because I don't have this account funded, I'm going to use 2 miners. Now, any pool you select to is going to ask you which port you would like to connect to. You want to connect to the port that is closest to your physical location. So if you're in the USA, you want US ports. If you're in Europe, you want the European ports. If you're in Asia, you want the Asian ports. And if you're somewhere else in the world, you want to select the port country that is closest to you. For this purpose, I'll just use the USA ports. I would, if the alt ports are listed, I would go ahead and select them. That way, if you have a problem with the primary port, your operating system will automatically move to the next port. Now, it's going to ask you for a wallet. So I'm going to come down here, and I have an Ethereum wallet handy. Obviously, this is not a real wallet. I mean, it is, but I don't use it, so it's not that big of a deal if you guys see the address. Now, it will select any mining software that has been uploaded for this particular algorithm. So Ethereum is Ethash, so every single Ethash miner that has been uploaded by other users, you'll be able to see here. So if you are using AMD cards, you'll want to select miners specifically for AMD. I know Team Red miners on here, and that's a big win for you guys. NVIDIA, you got your T-Rex miners, several others. I know NB miners in here too. If you are using both types of cards, you'll need to select a miner that can recognize both types. So I would recommend either LOL miner, or despite the recent bad news, I still like Phoenix miner. So, and both of these will recognize NVIDIA and AMD cards. I'm not sure if any of the others do. I don't think so, but I don't know so. I know if they specifically state that they have differences, then obviously you don't want to use those. But for whatever purpose you're using, I would recommend bringing multiple miners. So if you're using AMD, go ahead and add Team Red to your list and find something else too that would also recognize AMD, like come up to the G miner and select one of the G miners, and NVIDIA vice versa. That way if you do have an issue with one of the miners, you have a secondary that you can immediately switch to. That's rare, but it does happen. So we'll save that. So now we have our Ethereum wallet here. Now, if you have your USB inserted into your rig at this point, which if you have the worker token saved to your config file, you've flashed everything, and you have your internet connected to your rig, then when you go to your dashboard, you should have this up. First time setup, which means when you first plug in the USB into your rig, I would give it about 3 minutes. Assuming that you have your power connected properly, you have your internet connected properly, and your USB drive plugged in. Initial setup takes about 3 minutes. I run all my rigs headless, which means that I don't connect a monitor to my rigs. I just kind of let them go. That's fine, and probably about 7 out of 10 cases, you'll boot right up and you won't have any issues, depending on your motherboard. Otherwise, you'll probably, if this is your first time, I would recommend a monitor, just in case you run into a BIOS setting that needs to be changed, because if that's the case, then this won't work, and you'll be sitting here for a long time wondering what went wrong, and you won't be able to see it. But if you've done everything correctly, this starts off red. It will say offline, and it won't show any graphics cards, it won't show a hash rate, it won't show anything. When you click on it, it will show you the cards that you're using. This is just an old rig that I have sitting upstairs next to me so I can watch it. They're 4 gig cards, so this isn't going to work very well for my Ethereum demonstration because 4 gig cards don't do Ethereum very well. But this is what I had handy, so this is what I'm showing you guys. Now, like I said earlier, when you select a certain specific number of cards on a rig, I believe I selected 5. Now it's showing me these orange tabs and saying unknown card not detected. So if you had 5 cards running and you only have 2 here, then you have a connection issue on these 3. So you either need to check your riser, your power, or you didn't plug them into the board, which is one of my rookie mistakes when I first started out, is I'd get everything together and forget to plug the risers into the actual motherboard themselves, and that was embarrassing. Now, settings. This is a really good time to do your settings, because once you start mining, these settings are here to protect you. So you can set your maximum temperature value. That will automatically restart your rig if you hit that. You have your minimum hash rate. Realistically for me, I don't turn that on because there's just not, I don't see a whole lot of use case for that. But the maximum temperature watchdog is very useful. This is the #1 reason why I love Rave OS. We have an automatic fan. So you will simply type in a target temperature and your system will automatically set your fan curve. So if you want to, I usually do 60 Celsius. So I'll be setting these cards to 60 Celsius, and I will, when I do that, my operating system will automatically turn the fans up and then dial them down to maintain the temperature. Auto reboot, I highly recommend this. If you have any errors whatsoever, instead of just hanging, and which means that your system will stop hashing and won't do anything, your operating system will reboot the rig and bring you back to life and give you an opportunity to assess the problem later. Now this can get you stuck in a reboot cycle, but I still prefer that over just having my rig shut off, and 90% of the time this will fix your issue. For the crowd of people that are using 1080s and you're mining Ethereum, you have your enlargement pill enable disable right here. This is only for NVIDIA 1080s and only for Ethereum. Do not check this box for anything else. And then save and apply these settings. If you don't do that, everything you do here is for nothing. So, we're going to go back to the dashboard. We have our rig recognized, we have our cards, we have our wallet set up. So on the dashboard, there's two different ways to do this. You can actually do it right here on the dashboard. You can check this box and hit action and go to mining. And it's going to ask you if you really want to make this change. And you can hit OK. You can also come into the rig on the dashboard and hit mining. And they will both eventually take you to this screen where it's going to ask you for the wallet. It's going to ask you for the coin. And then it's going to ask you to select a mining software. So you'll be able to pick whichever one you want. I'm going to do the LOL miner. And I'm going to apply to all. It will automatically populate up top. It's going to tell you how many shares you're finding, how many rejected shares, gives you the algo information, things like that. And likewise, when you go to your cluster now, you have this worker showing here. And in a nutshell, that is essentially how you mine. In a few moments' time, you'll be able to go to your worker logs, and this shows you the actual Linux console for your miner. You can scroll down, and it'll tell you everything. Mine's trying to zombie mine because, like I said, these are 4 gig cards. If you had 8 gig cards or 6 gig cards, this would say generating DAG percentage, and then it would start mining. And at that point, oh yeah, so we do have a hash rate here. So your hash rate will display your power usage. Like I said, that's not 100% accurate because AMD cards are not very good at that. You can also switch the BIOS. So if you have a modified BIOS you'd like to put on the cards, you can put that on from this menu. I usually don't mess with that necessarily because you can come into this tab. And this is slightly different for NVIDIA users. NVIDIA users will have a slightly different overlay system than I'm showing you here. But you can set your core clock, your memory clock, your core voltage, memory voltage. If you want a specific fan percent, you can set that. I usually ignore that and just hit a target temp. I'm going to set both of these to the same. And then, as always, save and apply. Now that will erase my hash rate because my cards just reset, which if you go to your notifications, it will show you step by step everything that's going on. Worker, miner downloading, miner started, because I had to restart it. It'll also show you different errors. Yellow for reboots and operating system errors, and then red for critical errors like GPU faults, system failures, things like that. And it will also change the color of your rig here. So right now you can see that it's blue, which means we're all good. It'll change to yellow if you have a issue like that, and it'll change to red if you have a critical failure. And you can check those notifications. And then the temperature will update in real time alongside the fan percentage. You can see the difference that made though when I changed the voltage settings. We were at like 130 watts and we dropped down to 72. Now keep in mind, I will say this time and time again, these cards are not really pulling 70 watts. I've put power monitors on these at 860 millivolts. Your AMD card is probably pulling about 125 to 130 watts at the wall, which isn't bad. It's not terrible for an AMD card, especially a 470, but it is what it is. So, guys, I think I've covered everything. This video went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I'll get a little bit more in depth with how to add different things later. But for right now, guys, I think that about covers it. Please, 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 if you have any questions, hit up me on the comments down below and I will try to answer them. Or push come to shove, I should have a Discord link down there by the time this video goes live, and you guys can yell at me on Discord and we can talk there. So this is the Fox Den, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm signing off.